to our last session as a part of the digital literacy workshops hosted by We Are Tech. How is everyone doing? Please say hello to your fellow participants in the chat and let me know how you are doing. I love to hear from you guys, and I really appreciate you guys being consistent and showing up. So feel free to say hello to your participant mates in the chat, and I'd love to know how your week has been going. Alrighty. Hello, hello, hello. So today we are going to talk about app development. This is my favorite subject to talk about because I have the most experience in this out of all the other subjects that have been covered in this series. So today will be fun. I'll be able to add some insight from personal experience and also just expose you guys to things that you guys may not be aware of, and add some things to things that you may already be aware of. So with no further ado, let's go. Let's get started with app development. So first, I want to say thank you for supporting the series. This has been such a valuable experience. I've gained a lot of insight on how to really effectively do these workshops and how to effectively structure We Are Tech in the way to really help everyone. So I really appreciate everyone who registered to receive the recordings and to attend, and who have been showing up consistently every week these past 7, 8 weeks. So in today's session, we'll talk about exploring apps, where I'll go over a great deal of information about apps. Then I'll talk about what is app development. We'll talk about the app development process, and then we'll talk about tools for app development. And then we'll go into an intro for Adalo. And then finally, we'll leave off with some opportunities in the app development space. So let me dive right in. So, what is app development? App development is basically the professional practice of using software to create a application that operates on or runs on a certain type of device. So mobile apps are computer software or computer programs and software applications that run on either mobile devices such as phones, tablets, and watches, and they even can operate on laptops and computers as well. The evolution of mobile apps has really impacted the way humans live every day. We use apps for a lot of things. We use apps for social media. We use apps for uh, communication. We use apps for financial management. There are a ton of things that we use apps for on a daily basis. And there's a lot of different categories for different apps, ranging from productivity. Some of the most popular categories for apps are medical purposes, education, food and drink, lifestyle, utilities. There's a ton of different categories for apps, and all of these apps are available on different app platforms. So you may already be familiar with, the Google Play Store if you are operating on an Android device, and you may already be familiar with the Apple App Store if you are using an a Apple device. But there's also other app platforms where you can download apps, such as the Amazon App Store. You can download apps that can be used on the Amazon Fire technology, as well as the Amazon, as well as actually no, just the Amazon Fire platform where you would use apps there. I would have to do more research to find out if there's other platforms where Amazon utilizes apps. You have the Samsung Galaxy Store. You have the LG Smart World Store, which is available for apps that you would use on LG, TVs as well as mobile devices. And you have Microsoft World. So there's a lot of different places where you can download apps. In the chat, can you let me know what are your favorite apps to use? Feel free to answer. What are some of your favorite apps to use? I know for me, my favorite apps to use are definitely social media apps, finance, and games. So do you have, let's see if we have any responses. Is anyone, what are your favorite apps to use? And if you don't have a favorite app, that's okay. But if you do have a favorite category of apps to use, feel free to let me know in the chat. All right. So I'll move forward. I'll wait. I'll wait. I see somebody wanted to respond. What are your favorite apps to use? That's the question. So feel free to let me know in the chat what kind of apps, or if you have a specific name of an app that you'd like to list, and then we can. I'll definitely shout it out in the from the chat. And if you like insight on different categories of the apps, there's a ton of different category names here on the platform. I mean, on the screen as well. All right. So I'm gonna move forward. Okay. Now, when you are building an app, you must decide on which operating system you are building for and which programming language to use to build the app. Now, what is provided here are lists of different programming languages that you would use for programming different apps. Now, if you are programming an app that is native, which means it's specific to the type of operating system, you would use specific programming languages. But if you are build, but if you are, hold on, okay, I thought I froze. Can you give me a thumbs up in the chat if you can see and hear me? Because I think I froze for a second. Please let me know in the chat if you can see and hear me. Okay, thank you so much. Now, if you're not building a native app and instead you want to build a hybrid app is an app that is cross-platform, meaning you can use that app's technology on an iOS device and an Android device. So if you want to build a native iOS app, meaning that app is specifically for Apple products, you would have to use the two programming languages that are in the blue side of this graph, and those languages are Swift and Objective C. C++ sometimes is included in here, but based off the research that I was doing, I noticed that the two languages that are specific to iOS devices, it is Swift and Objective C. And if you wanted to build a app that is specifically for Androids, you can use the Kotlin or the Java programming languages. Now, if you want to make an app that is able to be used on either iOS or Android, in the middle here in the green section, I have a full list of programming languages that you can use. You have JavaScript, Python, HTML, Xamarin, React Native, Ruby, C++, jQuery, CSS, Cordova, and C Sharp. Now, as an educator, in my experience, the three most important programming languages to learn or to start out with, if you're starting your learning journey, I would say are HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I do wish I had highlighted them here on this screen, but the reason why I say HTML, CSS, and JavaScript are the most important languages to learn is because when you practice these three languages, you get to learn how languages work in conjunction with one another. And you can get a foundational understanding of how code syntax and different terms are utilized in code. I think that the other languages like Python, they tend to be like derivative. They tend to derive from, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So if you don't understand the foundation of the code, you won't fully understand how to abbreviate it in using Python. So I really advise that if you're starting your coding journey, it is very wise to use HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. All right, so I'm going to move on. For those of you who just joined us, this screen that you're looking at, this slide is basically an introduction to the different programming languages that you would use if you were to build a mobile app. There are specific programming languages for iOS devices, and there are specific programming languages for building apps on Android devices. But in here in the middle, these are hybrid. If you want to make an app that can be used on Android and iOS, these programming languages in the middle in the green are the different languages that you can use to create a hybrid mobile app. Now, one thing I do want to point out from our previous workshops, we learned about a platform called W3 Schools. If you wanted to learn any of these programming languages, the information for learning those languages is on W3 Schools. Swift, however, has its own platform called swift.org that I've actually been learning a lot on because I really want to get deeper into iOS development. Are you guys okay with me moving on? Please give me a thumbs up if you're okay with me moving on to the next slide. I definitely want to make sure if you have any questions, I answer them. But if you are ready for me to move on to the next slide, can I please get a thumbs up in the chat? Thank you, thank you, thank you. Cool. All right. Now, apps, last week when we talked about game development, we touched a little bit on monetization. And I really wanted to dive deeper into this so that you guys could have a better understanding along with a example of app monetization so that, you know, not only can you think about, not only think about this is the idea that I want to create, but also think about, well, if I do make this idea, how is it going to make money? So there's four different categories in terms of like app monetization. You have in-app purchases. We'll dive deeper into that on the next slide. Subscriptions, which basically are fees that people pay to gain access to your app or access to the content within your app. You have in-app advertising, which are ads that's placed over, your content, and then you have pay per download, which is charging people to pay for the app. Pay per download isn't that popular because a lot of times people want to use the app before they download it. So, before they have to pay for anything. So oftentimes, pay per download may not be the most promising revenue or monetization strategy, but you can lean into subscriptions with a freemium model where someone gets the opportunity to download your app for free. But then once they've downloaded the app, they then subscribe so that they can continue to use the app. And that can also be done through giving them like a free trial as well. So I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into, I believe, in-app purchases and in-app ads. So last week when we talked about game development, I dived a little bit into in-app purchases, and I wanted to just clarify what was said. So there are two avenues for in-app purchases. You have in-store revenue, meaning like app store in app store revenue, which is generated through the app store on which fees apply. So, for example, this can be a form of like an upgrade where, say, someone downloads your app, or I think this, you guys might have noticed this if you've downloaded apps, oftentimes from like advertisements. So sometimes when I'm using like social media or whatever, a ad will come up to download an app, and I'll download the app and it'll make me create an account. But then in order to use the app past the free trial, I end up having to upgrade and like actually subscribe to using the app. And that payment that I pay every, year, week, or month or whatever, that is basically like a purchase that is tracked through the App Store because it's indicating that my account is a certain membership for having access to this app. So that's an example of like an in-store revenue, meaning the revenue is being generated within the app store. People are paying a certain premium within the app store in order to access that app. Was that clear? Can I get like a thumbs up if that's clear, or like a can you please explain? If you need in the chat, let me know. And if I need to go back and explain it, I could thank you. Great. So I'll go on to out of store revenue. So in store revenue means it's money being made within the app store. Out of store revenue is actually revenue that's generated directly in your app. So these are transactions that are going on within your app. So like fees that people may pay in the app, say like you have a delivery app, if someone pays a delivery fee, that's a form of revenue. Rewards, maybe someone might want to buy like a rewards package or some tokens or coins. Those are forms of out of store revenue, meaning that's an in-app purchase where you're making money in the app, not the app store. And like commodities, maybe you might have like a currency within your app where people can buy, dollars, custom dollars, a part of your app, or like tokens, or even like skins. Maybe people might want to buy like swords, or if you have like a gaming app. So in-app purchases, that's how it's basically structured. And I think in-app purchases and ads are like the two most lucrative ways to monetize an app, especially if you're doing gaming. Like in-app purchases are so people operate a lot off of emotion when they're playing a gaming app, and they may just buy they may buy an incentive just to get a some type of advantage in the game. Or another good in-app purchase, in the that can be in the form of an in-store revenue, is paying for an option for people, like an adless option of the app. So like they may have your app just in general, and your app may have a ton of ads on it, but they can upgrade their subscription to your platform so that they can use the app without any ads. And that becomes an in-store, that's a form of in-store revenue because it changes their subscription to your app within the app store. So in-app ads, there's a variety of formats. I'll show like the banner ad in our example today, but just a few different formats. You can look these formats up. You have banner ads, video ads, rewarded video ads, meaning like if you watch a video, and I think I've seen this a lot in gaming ads. There's an ad where if you watch a video, you can get some tokens, and that gives you more coins for your gameplay. Interstitial ads, those are ads that take up the whole entire screen. Um, that it's like you'll go from one screen in your app, you'll click a button on the app to go to another page, but in between the page you're at and the page you're going to, a interstitial ad will come up, and you'll have to like click X out of it in order to get to the next page in your in your app. Native ads are ads that appear within your app but look like content within your app. So if you have like, this is really popular on like social media apps. Like if you have like a social media feed, maybe there's like a sponsored post within the app that looks just like a regular post, but it's really an ad. That's an example of a native ad. You have playable ads, which are very popular in gaming, where in the middle of your gameplay, a ad will come up that is like another game, and you'll have to interact with the ad in order for it to, go away after a certain amount of time. And then you have offer walls, which are basically walls of incentives and offers that sometimes they may or may not look like your game, but they look like something that's related to your game. Um, I would just say with ads, be careful because you don't want to diminish the experience, the user experience, but they're a really good way to monetize ads because if you really market your app for people to get to it and want to use the content or the features that you provide on it, throwing an ad in there is only going to result in having like passive income. So how do you make money with these ads? There are a variety of cost models, and I provided three that are very popular. You have cost per thousand impressions. So cost per thousand impressions is basically the fee that people spend, or the average fee that people spend every thousand impressions. Impressions being views, or mainly views. Like your ad, every time that ad pops up for someone to see it, that can count as an impression. So every thousand people that do something, you get that fee. So let's say there was a platform where an advertiser spent like $10 per CPM, meaning they're spending $10 every time 1,000 people view their advertisement. If you had 1,000 people come to your platform and they deploy that ad appears, you would get $10. So every time 1,000 people view something, you get whatever that CPM cost is. You have cost per click. I think this one's a really good lucrative cost model. However, you can't always think that people are going to click on things, but when they do, it adds up. So cost per click is basically getting paid every time someone clicks something. Cost per action is very similar, getting paid every time somebody commits to an action with the ad on your platform. So I wanted to dive deeper into this so that as you think through the costing of your app idea and its business model, you have a hands on experience of how to plan out the amount of revenue projections that can happen or the revenue projections. And before I ask you guys to answer this, I'm actually going to provide a calculator in the chat. So I've just provided a calculator from MediaFuse.com. It's a CPM calculator, and the web address is www.mediafuse.com/CPM calculator. That's for anyone who watches this recording. That's how you get to the link that was shared in this workshop to come up with the answer for this banner ad revenue example. So one thing I wanted to dive deeper into is the CPM formula. So I shared earlier that CPM stands for cost per, it's basically cost per milli, but cost per 1,000 impressions. So every 1,000 impressions, how much does someone pay for an ad? I mean, for the ad being engaged with or viewed. And that formula is basically CPM equals ad spend over the amount of impressions. So how much the entire campaign cost, which is the ad spend, divided by the amount of impressions, meaning how many times that ad was viewed, times 1,000. Um, and I have an example here, and you can take some of these numbers. I think the you could take two of these numbers and put it into the CPM calculator that has been provided in the chat to answer this question. So my question is, how much ad revenue would an app earn in 10 days if the app generated 10,000 views daily and had one ad running in it that cost advertisers $12 CPM? So $12 per milli. So in the chat, I provided the link for the MediaFuse CPM calculator. And what you can do when you open this web page is for the CPM, you could type in the number 12. And then for the amount of impressions, I've already done the math here. 10,000 views across 10 days is 100,000 impressions. So in the CPM calculator, you can type in 100,000 impressions and the CPM equaling 12 in order to find the revenue. So can someone in the chat tell me how much would the revenue be? How much would the overall ad spend for this ad campaign be? If an app, how much would an app earn in 10 days? Meaning, in 10 days, if the app generated 10,000 views daily, so that's 100,000 impressions, and had one ad running in it that cost advertisers $12 CPM. So I will give you guys a little bit of time, maybe like 20 seconds, maybe, to type in these numbers into the CPM calculator. We're typing in 100,000 as the impression, and we're typing in 12 as the CPM in order to find the ad spend. Can anybody let me know in the chat, how much would the revenue be based off the ad spend? How much would the revenue be for this example? Let's see who will have our answer first. in the chat. Okay, okay. Someone said they're just watching, so they're just gonna wait. Well, our other participants want to take a crack at providing this answer before I just spill it out there? Anyone? Yay, nay. All right. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna share my screen so that you can see this example. All right. Because I definitely want you all to be able to see um, this in action. All right. All right. So if we're using the CPM calculator, and for the example above, the question, or for the example in the previous slide, the question was, how much ad revenue would be generated for an app that, uh, for an app over 10 days that generated 10,000 impressions per day? So 10 days, 10,000 impressions per day, that gives us 100,000 impressions. And advertisers are paying a $12 CPM in order to advertise on our app. So let's see what our revenue would be. Our revenue over 10 days would be $1,200. That's a good amount of money. I know I can use $1,200 right now. So this is why we're doing what this is why we're learning this is why we're learning this information so that we can be able to quickly see like, oh, like here's how technology can be used in order to, meet different goals that we have in life. All right. So let's say you have built your app and you want to now really optimize your app. There are things that you have to measure in order to ensure the success of your app. So the first metric that you should always measure when you're trying to gauge your app's overall performance is the churn rate. The churn rate is basically the rate that shows you like how often people download and delete the app. If you are, getting people to download the app, but then they don't stay, that really becomes an issue for your app's success. So you have to understand like how long is it from people downloading the app and deleting it in order to figure out what else needs to go into this app in order to get people to not only download it but keep it on their phone or on their device that they're using the app on. The next ratio or the next metric is ARPU, which stands for average revenue per user. So you want to know like your different users, how much money do they spend on your app? Because then that'll give you insight on how to optimize your marketing. You may want to double down on your most lucrative users so that you can maximize your revenue. You have lifetime value, which basically is the value of your customer over, or your value of your user over the lifetime of them using your product. So from them downloading it all the way to them actually utilizing the features to get their end result. What is that value? Where do you find value? Is it through in-app purchases with that customer? Is it through putting ads on different screens that customer is going to have to open? Like you really want to think through like each view within your app. Where is there being value extracted to understand the lifetime value of that person's use on your platform? The last metric is funnel conversion rates. Now, this is important because funnel conversion really helps you understand. I think funnel conversion rates really gives you insight on the lifetime value of your users. So when you're coming up with your funnel conversion, or when you're when you're thinking about funnel conversion, you have to think about the different layers of where you interact or where your customer interacts with your platform. Starting from the click-through rate, maybe you have, a splash page that is leading them to, download the site, to then clicking to open the app store, to then uh, the app store to download rate. Like once they're on the app store and they actually download it, then you want to measure the click to install rate, like them actually clicking it to installing it, all the way to them installing it and then having in-app events. So everything that happens that converts. So every event that happens within the app that converts to some further action. These are all levels that you have to measure and think through when you are developing an app. So let's talk about the app dev process. This process is, it's, how can I say this? When you're building an app, you definitely want to follow each step. But as you continue the journey, you will find that, like, at each step, you may want to do all the steps within each step. I hope that doesn't sound off, but like, let's say for like ideation, like you're at the beginning stage, but you also still want to think about what is the design and what does the development look like? What is the actual rollout going to look like? So it's kind of like you definitely want to understand the process so that as you're in each step, you can forecast what the next step will be or what the final result will be. So there's actually 6 stages to the app dev process, and I have 2 slides here that go over each three, or each step in threes. So we have the idea generation and validation stage. Validation being the key word. Validation being the key word. A lot of times people think of app ideas and then they immediately go into designing it and building it out, but they haven't validated whether or not people will actually want to use their app and who those people actually are that are going to want to use their app and how much they value that app solution in order to want to download it and actually use that app. So it's very important before you build anything, it is very important to do research and validate the research that you've done with feedback from people so that feedback and also market research that supports that feedback to really validate that what you are working towards building is valuable to people and it's valuable enough for a business to be sustained on it. So there's a lot of things you could do in the idea generation and validation stage. It's very similar to the previous workshops that we've done that require like development, like game development, um, especially game development. I think we talked a bit about it. You know, you can do surveys, you can make little mock-ups and publish them in like community forums. You can ask questions in community forums. You can do market research on different database websites to really see like what is the potential revenue, what is the potential size of your audience that could potentially use the app that you are creating, and then also, you know, get feedback from people about whether the problem your app solves or addresses is, you know, really critical enough for them to want to utilize a solution to you know, to get to get the results that they're looking for. And additionally, once you've kind of, you know, gotten that validation of the space that you're addressing, you then can come up with your ideas for what you think your feature should be. And then you go back to your research, again, doing surveys with people to really see if the solution that you have in mind really solves the problem that they have. So idea generation and validation, that is honestly the most important stage in my opinion. Once you've done that, then you can have fun. You can start the UX and design stage where you really are, you know, mocking up wireframes, prototypes to really get an idea of what your platform is going to look like. And there's even some research in this stage too, because you have to put your product in front of people to see if they really, you know, if the design you're coming up with effectively solves the problem, and if they understand what your app does. The phase after that is the development. So that is where all the coding comes into play. There are also no code solutions. So today we're going to go over Adalo, which is a no code app development platform. But development all consists of building out the product, programming it so that it functions the way that you see fit. After development, you go into testing and quality assurance. So here's where you can go back to the people that you've done research with previously to test out your product and see if it effectively solves their problems and if what you've built should include anything else. After you've done that, you launch and deploy. You launch your product to the different app stores. And then after that, you have marketing and maintenance. I do think marketing is a part of the launch process because you do have to promote what you built in order for people to know that it's out there. And then maintenance comes after launch, of course, because after it's out, you definitely want to know from having more people using it what needs to be changed, what needs to be debugged, and maybe you might want to update some of the content within the app so that it better serves your audience. So that wraps up the app dev process. And I do believe from here, I'm going to just talk about some more tools for app development. Yep, we're making good time. So I'm going to talk about some tools for app development, and then I'm going to get into Adalo. So I had mentioned before, like the different programming languages that can be used for building apps. I do know that I had talked about native apps for iOS and Android. So then the best platform to use for building an iOS app is Xcode. Oh, and I just realized one resource that is not on here that needs to be on here is this platform called Playground. So if you ever wanted to learn, I'm going to drop it in the chat. If you ever wanted to learn, I'll type in Playground Swift. If you ever wanted to learn how to code iOS apps in a very efficient and effective way, Playground is really, really good. And I'm gonna drop it in here. It's Swift Playgrounds by let me see, learn to code. Yep, here we go. I'm gonna drop it right in the chat. So Swift Playgrounds. If you ever wanted to learn iOS development, Swift Playgrounds is really good. And then if you really want to dive deeper into learning Swift, I believe the website is swift.org. Yeah, yep, it's swift.org. So these two links that I'm dropping in the chat, swift.org. So for my people who are listening to the recording, Swift.org is the best resource to use to learn the programming language for building native iOS apps, meaning Apple apps. And then if you want to have a more hands-on learning experience, there's this platform called Swift Playgrounds that I've been using actually, and I really like it because I've been learning a lot. But those two resources that I shared, they support the Xcode app. So if you're wanting to learn how to build Apple products, Xcode is the platform that you use. I mean, if you want to, yeah, not just learning, because I would say for actually implementing what you learned, use Xcode. That's the platform you use for building any Apple app. And then we have Android Studio, which is for building Android apps. And then I wanted to include Flutter down here. Flutter is a dev software or dev platform built, a dev framework created by Google. And I just like it because it's very intuitive, but you can use it to create different apps as well. And it just seems the website looks really good. I could definitely dive deeper to dive into like how to, really use its tools. But I figured it would be a good resource to include because it's a framework built by Google. So it's automatically going to have the types of infrastructure that you need to effectively launch apps to the Google Play Store. Now, the three resources that are up here at the top, these are more so like no code solutions. So Fluid UI, I love Fluid UI because Fluid UI is really good for people who just want to get their ideas up. And with Fluid UI, you basically can like stitch together different screens and you can make hotspots. Like you can make certain buttons clickable to link to different screens. Now, the app that you build on here won't be like a fully functioning app, but it will at least be something that you can click on to show people your idea. So Fluid UI will be really good for like the research stage of you doing, building your app because you'll be able to quickly mock up little prototypes so that people can get an idea of what it is that you want to do. Buildfire is another app development platform that is no code, low to no code, meaning like if you don't really know much about code or you're still learning, you can at least still build things and deploy your apps. And then the last resource I have listed here is Bubble. And the website for Bubble is bubble.io. And very similar to Buildfire, it is a full on no code platform where you can build out an app and deploy it, and it can actually be launched. So, previously in this workshop, I talked a lot more about like code, but our goal is to meet people where they are and get them onboarded into these spaces that we're addressing. So I'm going to be demoing a no-code solution today, which is called Adalo. One of my old students from when I was a teacher introduced me to this platform, and I'm forever grateful to her for introducing it to me because it's very useful. Like I've used Adalo to build apps for other people's businesses, and I've also used Adalo just to, create my own app ideas. So it's a no-code app development platform. It deploys apps directly to the iOS App Store and the Google Play Store, and it has database integrations. So what I want to talk a bit more about today in our demo is the importance of pushing data through an app, because when you learn how to code more, the whole basis of coding is basically translating information and using that information throughout an app to provide an experience. So with Adalo, what I really like is that since it has database integrations, you're able to get an understanding of how to flow information through an app in order to provide an experience. And that is at the core of, once you do start to learn how to code, that's all you have to really understand is like, which code am I using in order to push this information through this app in order to provide this experience. So with no further ado, I'm going to open up Adalo on my end, adalo.com, and I'm going to share it in the chat so that you guys have it as well. And I'm going to click log in so that I can at least get my workspace open. There we go. There we go. All right, and I'm going to create a new app. Let's see. All right, great. So let's see. It should let me. So yes, share. Boom. All right, cool. So I'm actually on Adalo right now. So adalo.com. Great, this looks perfectly fine. And again, in the chat, let me know if you cannot see me or if my audio gets a little choppy. All right, so from adalo.com, I've signed in. I'm actually going to create a different app. So I have quite a few different apps on here, but I'm going to create new app. And what happens is it asks you what type of template or what type of platform you'd like to use. So I can choose to make a mobile, tablet, and desktop app, or I could do mobile only. So I'm going to do mobile only. And then from here, I have all these options of like templates that I'd like to use, or I can use a blank mobile first app. So I'm going to go with that one. I could technically, I don't want to dive too much into the databases that pre-exist on here. I want to create one from scratch with you guys. So I'm going to hit next. And then it's going to ask me about branding. So I'm just going to name this workshop test app. Come on. There we go. And then who are the users for this app? I'm just going to put mostly me. I'm just testing. And I'm not going to change the colors, but I could change the colors here, which are going to be like the colored theme of the app. And then I just hit create. And then what this does is it spins up a workspace for me. So, excuse me. How am I good? All right, cool. So let me just walk through like the flow of Adalo. Like Adalo really, the thing I love about Adalo is that it really allows you to uh, basically plug and play. Like anything you would need for an app to exist, Adalo, it has the integration for it. So that's what I love the most about using Adalo. Like you're able to just plug and play every single thing that you need. So to start, let me zoom out a little bit. All right, so zoom here. 1 second. Let me turn on my other mouse to make it a little bit easier to navigate. So right now the navigation is a little wonky. But what I do want to show you guys is that Adalo makes it basically starts you off with your first 4 screens. So you don't really have to, there we go. Cool. This mouse is connected now. Great. There we go. All right. So it starts you off very simply with your first 4 screens. So I'm going to move these screens over a little bit just to clean up my workspace a little bit. And right now these screens are very slim. I think by default it's basically associated with a more slimmer app, uh, a slimmer device screen size. So I'm going to start off right here on the left side of the screen so that you can see like these different tools that we have. So right here, when you click the add button, it allows you to add different components to your app. So I can add entire screens. So if I wanted to add a blank screen, I can. If I want to add different layouts, I can, which I've noticed are actually new. These are some new things that I haven't seen in this platform before. They have all these different list options, and it looks like they've added some really cool list options here. Wow, these features look amazing. You have all these different patches, similar to how like our web development workshop was, how Squarespace allows you to just add in full-on sections. Adalo has this option where you can add on full-on sections into your app, like very easily. And everything is drag and drop. You have all these different detail pages that can be added into your app, different overlays that can be added to your platform. It's a lot of really cool things. They even have pre-made pages for their account settings or for your sign up and login page. Like it's really, really remarkable how quickly you can like add things into here. So that's so if you wanted to add a screen, you basically would, I'm gonna like add something to this home screen right here. So let me zoom in to this home screen. So if I wanted to add something to this screen, all I have to do is drag it. So I'm actually adding it, or actually I'm adding a new screen. Hold on, let me not do that. So if I wanted to add a new screen, so not add something to this home page, I'll just name this test screen, and then it's gonna create the whole screen. So now I have this whole screen here, and I can link this screen to different pages within my app. So it's really cool. Like everything is drag and drop, and it's very straightforward. And then you also have components here. So components can be added to screens. So if I wanted to add some text to my home screen here, I can do that, and I can click on it and say, hello, you know, just make that my first little piece of content that's on my home screen. You can add a lot of different things here in Adalo. So it's a really good platform that allows you to just plug and play and add everything that you need. If I wanted to add a button here, I can. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a button here that says like go to test screen. And what we'll do is we'll program it to go to that test screen that pops up. Okay, there we go. So I'm just gonna have that there, and it's gonna take me to the text screen. So when you add different elements, one thing I wanna point out, we'll get to it, and I think we are at this point since it's so straightforward. Adalo is so straightforward. So when you add different elements to your platform, I mean to your app in Adalo, you're able to pass information through these elements. So this is touching on what I was saying about the importance of understanding the flow of information, because when you code an app, all you're doing is programming it to funnel information through your app. So I want to show you real quick how to use databases in Adalo. So we'll skip these two icons, but I'm going to take you straight into databases. So when you create a platform or when you create a database on Adalo, you would click the database section here and you're able to add collections of information. Right now, the collection of information that's automatically added into this uh, app is my user information. And it's collecting the email, the password, the username, and the full name from the user. I can add a different collection, like let's say, I'll just say test collection. And then once I add it, I'm then able to add in properties. So there's a whole list of properties that you can add. A number property, a text property, a Boolean property, which is true or false, date, time, date, image. These are ways to make files of information within your apps on Adalo. And you can also make relationships within your database. So let's say I wanted uh, my test collection database to have a relationship with users. It's going to ask me, what type of relationship do you want these two collections to have? I can allow users to have multiple test collections. I can make a user have only one test collection, and a test collection has multiple users. I can have a test collection have multiple users, and a user can have multiple. Like it could be one to many, many to one, or many to many. Those are the different options that you can have. I'm not gonna set any type of parameters now, but I just wanted to show you like this is how you can add databases. And I'm actually not going to use this. I'm not going to keep this collection here because I won't be using it. I'm actually just going to use the one user collection that's already in here. So when you have these different databases, these databases have records. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to add a user record so that I can easily log into this app. And I'm going to just make it, let me see, test. I'm going to make the password test password. Okay. All right. And then Brittany Jenkins. So these are some pieces of information that I'm going to save real quick. I'm going to save a record. Now, you don't always have to save the record manually. You can add in data, or you can program your app to where when people sign up, it adds this data automatically to the database. So one thing I just wanted to add that so that when we test this app, we can actually see it in action. So what I'll do here is I'll show you like an example of how you can add in the data into a portion of your app to where it'll actually show. So right here, I have some text on the home screen that says hello friend. And actually, instead of it saying hello friend, uh-oh, instead of it saying hello friend, I'm gonna use this magic button here in my text field settings. So what we have here are the settings or the setup for this text that I have on my home page. I'm gonna click this magic text button. And what I'm gonna do, what it does is it opens up these options to what I want to magically set this text to. So if I want to set it to the login user's username, I can do that. And then what'll happen is there'll be a placeholder here, a little red placeholder that's basically saying when someone opens up this screen, the screen is going to say hello and their username. So I just wanted to show you like that's how easily you can program this app to put information into the product. Now, another feature I want to show you guys on here is how to link your pages through buttons. So I added this button here, and when I click every element that you click on, what you'll see is that on the left side of the screen here, the setup features for that specific element all appear. So right now when I click, right now I have my text field selected. It has the setup for the text field. And then now I have my button selected, and now it has the setup feature for my button so available. So right here where it says click actions, I'm gonna add an action. And then what I want to do is I want to link this page. So when someone clicks on this button, I want to link it to my test page. So simple as that. I've literally linked these two pages now so that when someone clicks on them, the information, or when they click on that button, it takes them to that the screen that I programmed it to. And what I'm going to do here on my test page is I'm going to create a button that takes the viewer back to the home page. So what I just did is I lowered the size of this little section here. And then I'm going to go to my add section. And what I want to do is I want to add a little app bar. I'm going to add this app bar here. And I'm going to add it right to the top of my app right here. There we go. So now that I have this in here, as always, the settings for that component appear here. And what I want to change is the icon. So, or I'm not going to change the icon. I'm actually going to add an action to the icon. So I click add action, and I'm going to link it back to my homepage. So this is some easy, quick programming. And I'm going to make a transition. Let's see. Slide. I'm gonna just say push. I'm gonna use push as the setting. And let's see for this one, what type of transition do I want? I'm gonna do push for that one too. All right. So now that we have just some simple components here, we have, you know, these are things that have already been added in: the welcome, login, the sign up, and the home and the test page. I'm going to click on the login page and see if it'll take me directly to the login page. But from here, I can click view app so that I can test my app. I have two options here. I can either do a staging preview, or I can actually share my app, meaning I can click on this and then the link automatically can be sent to people. So I'm going to share the tab that opened up. So after I click that share button, this page popped up for me to actually log into my app. So I'm going to click, I already have an account because I did create an account in the collection. So BWR Tech Education. And then password, the password was test password. And then I'm hitting log in, and let's see if it takes me in. Yes, it did. All right. And then not only did it take me in, but it displayed my username. So this is a clear example of how you can quickly program Adalo to use information in the databases that you save to this platform. And then the next thing that we need to test is if the button works. So let's see, it says go to test screen, and it takes me to our test screen. So our test screen here is available. There's no real content on here right now, but our test screen is available. Now I do see something. I see how this white slither here is like looking kind of funky. I can go back and fix that. But let me see if my back button works. And it works. So this is a quick mock-up of a working app. This is what I wanted to show you guys, is how simple Adalo can be used to build an app. And it's been a matter of what, like 10 minutes? It's been a matter of like 10 minutes, you know, where you've been able to see an app be effectively built. Please excuse my dogs in the back. They're kind of rambunctious. All right. So that's the basis of what I wanted to show you guys today. Honestly, Adalo, I could walk through some more features here, but this is it in a nutshell. Like, this is an app development platform that you can use to easily get into, you know, building apps and deploying them to the App Store. A couple other features that are here: you can change the branding of your platform here. You can get an overview of all the screens that you have here. There's some advanced settings. So if you wanted to change the name of your app, change the app icon, um, even integrate different elements into your platform, such as like layout, the access that people have to it. You even can integrate APIs into your platform. So if you wanted to like add geolocation from like Google Maps or anything, you could do that here. And then you can publish it directly through Adalo. So you would need to upgrade your plan to a higher paid plan in order to deploy your app directly to the Android App Store or the iOS App Store, but you can do that in this platform. And you even have analytics that can be tracked as well. So this platform is very robust. There are a lot of things that you can do with it, and they even provide templates. But I just wanted to show you guys this brief introduction to how quickly you can make an Adalo app and even push data through that app in order to provide a unique experience for your end user. So I think actually out of all the workshops that have been done in this series, uh, this one was the fastest one. I hope that this information was useful. Um, I can provide more examples down the line. There will be a survey that is provided in order to, uh-oh, there will be a survey that is provided in order to understand what else you guys would like to learn. But before I do get out of here, I do want to provide more opportunities in app development, not game development. I see a typo here. Some opportunities that are in app development, you have project managers, product managers. These are people who manage the entire execution of not only the development of the app, but the development of the app as a product within the business. UI UX designer, these are designers who design the experience and interface of the product. Q&A engineers, those are quality assurance engineers. They ensure the quality of the product is standard and up to compliance. You have back-end engineers, meaning engineers who work on the inner workings of the product. And then you have front-end developers, people who work on the front-end interface of the product, designing it. You have mobile app developers, which are just full on, they focus solely on making apps. Full stack engineer, this is the engineer who would know all of those programming languages that were included in the previous slide regarding choosing the right programming language for the type of product you want to build. A full stack engineer would know all of those different languages. And then a web developer. Web developers solely focus on like web apps. So a lot of the languages that they would know would be around like those hybrid languages. And that pretty much sums up the information that I wanted to share with regards to, app development. The platform to use is Adalo. You just saw in a matter of 10 minutes, making this the shortest workshop provided out of this entire series. We made a quick little app. You're welcome. And and you know, I really have enjoyed doing this workshop series with everyone. So um, more will be coming, and I would love to get you guys' feedback on what more information you would like to know and how you would like it presented, so that we can curate a workshop series suited for you and your needs. So if you have any questions about any of the workshops and any of the information covered in the workshops, please feel free to reach out to me at info@wearetech.education. Still share the link for the workshop series with anyone that you know, because they then can receive the recordings. And feel free to DM us at weare.tech on Instagram if you would like any feedback on your projects, or would just like to connect with us and learn more about what we're doing. So that concludes this series, and I'm so deeply appreciative of everyone who stuck it out with me and supported this series. And stay tuned, because there will be more to come. Have a great rest of your weekend. And, I look forward to seeing you in the near future and future endeavors that we do. Take care.